Welcome to the next episode of Take a Break.
Take a break. Keep the whole world guessing. Take a break from the human race. Take a break when it gets depressing. Take a break.
Pat Armistead is a voice for all that is joyful. In this series, she brings a fresh approach to emerging consciousness. Through conversational, social and emotional intelligence, she and her guests explore new models of leadership that embrace humour, empathy and compassion.
Welcome to another episode of Take a Break. My guest today is Yvonne Godfrey from New Zealand. I've known Yvonne for around about 20 years, maybe a little bit longer. And it's amazing, isn't it?
Is it really that long?
Yes. Yes. Turn of the century. So I think I met you, I don't know, it might have been 1999 or 2000, somewhere around there. Yeah. So in my mind, Yvonne has always been, or epitomised for me, a woman who's fully self-expressed, very authoritative, but also very aware. And for years, Yvonne, you presented globally around the world, talking about leadership. I think that was your main subject area. And then in more recent years, you can let us know more fully in a moment, created MIOMO. And we'll let listeners know about that and expand there as we move through. And today, in talking with Yvonne, we're going to be hearing about strong and certain leadership. That's been my appreciation of what you've brought to the planet, that level of certainty and being able to support parents in particular, but anyone in a leadership role, to bring their best qualities forward, serving humanity and more recently serving the younger generation. So thank you for joining me today. Yvonne has just come out of the garden, she tells me. So, so she's been very connected with nature this afternoon. Tell us, would you please, about your speaking journey, because I think that was pretty much a lifelong journey. And how did that begin? And how did it roll out?
I started speaking when I was 22.
Yes.
I became involved in the Amway business, which was absolutely not what I wanted to do, but the lure of freedom and passive income got me in there. And so what happened then was the process of learning and understanding the business. I got to share it one-on-one. Then there were little groups of 3 and 4. Then there were groups of 10 and 20. And clearly from the beginning, I had a passion for sharing knowledge. But I think probably my gift was what I call the art of monescence, which is the ability to make complex issues simple. So min being to minimize, essence meaning substance. And I've always had a passion for, I guess, deconstructing things and then reformulating them in a way that people could understand, that they could grasp. I think that came from my slowness to learn. I'm not the fastest at learning. I can remember learning to drive a car. It was just the most horrific experience. And so I'm not a fast learner, which means I understand by the time I've grasped it what the concepts were. And you'll find that people who are slow learners are often very good teachers. Mm-hmm. And that was me. And so I didn't love selling. I in fact retired from the Amway business 10 years ago to start the MIOMO program. But I had 35 plus years in the business. And the thing that always kept me on fire and looking forward to the next day was, which group was I going to talk to help them understand something that was complicated or was something that they couldn't get their head round.
Yep.
So I started the business in Australia, even though I'm a New Zealander, in 1977. And that took me on some years later to come back to New Zealand. We came back to New Zealand in 1985 to start the Amway business here. And from there, my speaking just grew and grew and grew. We built a big business that I'm very grateful that it gives me a passive income today. But the real thing was that I got to travel the world. I think I've spoken in 34 countries and had the opportunity to speak through a translator, which is another form of speaking again.
Yes.
But you're actually speaking to the translator,
Yes.
not the audience. Because if the translator doesn't understand what you're saying, they can't translate it for the audience.
Mm.
So that became another skill that I probably lapsed into a New Zealand accent again now, but in those days I had a very neutral accent where I could speak in any country and the translator could understand me. And that became part of my I guess, skill base, is being able to put things into sentences that language could then translate. And I spent a lot of time understanding different languages and how they were structured so that I could speak in a way that the translator would give me the best shot at being understood. So that was, and I didn't really have any speaking training. It was speaking, the training was in front of the audience. If it flew and if they liked my humor and if they liked the way I put it across, I knew I was then developing my speaking in a way that was improving. I then, of course, became proficient at PowerPoint. And even now, if I do a 60-minute talk, which I generally do, I'll have a roughly 50 to 55 slides.
Yeah.
And I've developed a pattern where I don't use any notes at all. There's very little writing on my slides.
Yeah.
And those slides become gold in that they give the audience something visual to watch while I'm speaking. And the combination and the timing and the humor and the formatting of that talk has become a passion for me. And clearly after 40 years of speaking now, I think it is, was it 43 years, 4 years of speaking, that's been my signature. And I just love it.
Yes, yes. And I can so identify with that. There are, I think, as we mature, so many stories. We know where they all are. We know how long they take to share. And it's not just stories, but concepts as well.
Yes.
We've got all our memes, and there's a huge amount of freedom with that. And I would work very similarly, actually, with the visual and no language or hardly any language or text. Yeah. Yeah.
And every person, I think, who wants to be a speaker has to find their own way of doing things. Glean from the best and then see what suits your style. For example, I don't walk around the stage. I stay pretty much in one spot.
Yep.
And I let the visuals on the slides and I let my voice create the movement.
Yes.
And
yes.
I stay pretty still. That keeps me grounded. I don't need to be running around for myself. And I find most people who walk around the stage, for me personally, unless they're very good at it, I find them distracting.
Yes.
But that's just a personal preference. So that's just an example of finding the thing that when you're on stage, you own the space, you own the airwaves, and you feel incredibly connected to the audience.
Mm. Mm. And I think there's something in there about when you take that stance. I think you mentioned the term grounded. You're very grounded in that space, and that just so enhances the certainty of your message, and the clarity. I think it's coming from a very strong space. So thanks for saying that. How long ago was it that you created MIOMO?
10 years ago now.
Yes, yeah.
In fact, it was about 12 years ago that I first got the idea.
What was the prompt for that?
So, first of all, for your viewers, MIOMO is an
Yes.
acronym for making it on my own.
Yes.
It's making it on my own. The whole concept of it is transitioning youth to adult. And MIOMO is a 4-day independence and leadership program that equips young people with the confidence and the skills that they need to leave home and be independent. And I also work with the parents, so that I believe that growing up is a team effort, and we want to get the young people and their parents on the same page so that they're working towards that common goal with excitement, with anticipation, and with a certainty that they're going to get there. So that's what MIOMO is. And about 12 years ago, a friend asked me to help his daughter, because she was living in Ponsonby, which is an expensive suburb in Auckland, as you know, Pat. But she was earning the minimum wage. She was 21. And if you can visualise this, she had one foot in the city and one hand in Dad's pocket. Yeah. So she was straddling these two worlds. Neither of them were very happy, because she felt controlled and he felt like she was dependent on him, and both was true. Both were true. I took her for 10 weeks and I taught her all the skills that are now in the MIOMO program. And each week I just pulled something new out of my head that I thought she would need now. So to be able to handle money, to be able to budget, to be able to build healthy relationships and resolve conflict. She had some real problems in that area. Clearly, to be able to live independently, what did that look like in terms of being a good flatmate? Self-management around time, space and energy, all of that, all the self-management, communication skills, and yeah, all of those things, goal achievement, just a whole heap of things. Rewrote her CV, did all sorts of stuff. So at the end of the 10 weeks, this girl had transformed. She was eating properly, had lost 4 kilos, she was exercising, she'd resolved a breakup with her girlfriend, she had gotten rid of a guy who wouldn't take no for an answer, and just basically become a really, really switched on kid. And so I said to her in our last session, you know, the last thing we've got to nail here is you've got to increase your income, because you're still, as lovely as you are, you're still not making ends meet, which means you've still got this codependent relationship with your father. And we talked about whether she should leave that job and get a new one, or whether she should get a pay rise, whether she should ask for a pay rise. And she opted for the rise because she liked what she did. Mm-hmm. She was a really hard little worker too. And so I said to her, okay, this is how you go and ask for a rise. And I set her up. And she went into her boss and she said, I believe I bring good value to this business. And the boss, who was a woman, was really taken back. And she went, yes, of course. Yes, we think you're wonderful. And she then began to download all the things that she felt was wonderful about this girl. By the time she'd finished and run out of steam, my little friend looked at her and said, thank you. And I'd like to be paid accordingly. Pat, she got a 70% pay rise in that one 10-minute conversation. And of course, she skipped out of there. She couldn't wait to ring me. And it was exactly 90 days from the time she came to me to the time she got that rise. And of course, her life completely changed. And when I asked my students on the program, why do you think she got the pay rise? Eventually, some bright little bunny will put his hand up or her hand up and say, because she asked. And I say, yes, you're right. It takes courage to ask. But what had changed in her head to give her the courage? Yeah. And the answer is that when she came to me, she was thinking, speaking, and acting as a child. Now she was thinking, speaking, and acting as a young adult, and therefore she commanded respect. You see, she commanded respect. She had to be treated like the woman that she was projecting to be. And this so blew me away that I thought, oh my gosh, is this a fluke? Is this just her, or could I do this with a lot of young people? Could I, in fact, help them avoid the abyss that they seem to fall off the cliff when they leave school, and sometimes take years to find their footing, years to find their confidence, their independence. So I sat on it for about a year and a half, talking to everybody I could. Well, what do you think about this idea? What do you think about this idea? Of course, everyone thought it was a wonderful idea, except I couldn't see how it could be funded. I wasn't sure who would pay for it. So I was in Russia, speaking in Moscow, about 4,000 people, 5 actually in Moscow. I told that story that I've just told you, and at the end, the people erupted. They mobbed me and said, when will you bring this program to Russia? We don't know how to raise our children. Of course, I was just talking about doing a program. I said, we were born in communism, raised in communism. Our children were born when the wall between East and West Berlin fell. They're now 20 years of age. This was 2009. They're now about 20, and we don't know how to equip them for a capitalistic society, for a competitive world. Will you come? I said, well, I haven't started it in New Zealand yet. Yeah. And I left that venue quite disturbed. Simon, my husband, was with me, and I said, look, I've got to stop talking about this and do something. I'm going to do this talk again in Novosibirsk, which was going to be the following weekend with another 4,000. If I get the same response, will you let me do this? Will you set me free from the business? Because I was the front person. Will you set me free from this and to allow me to work with young people? And immediately he said, of course. It was just phenomenal. I was getting ready to speak in Novosibirsk. I was in my bathroom, and I could hear CNN just through the door. And the announcement came on the 26th of June, 2009, that Michael, what's his name? I've forgotten his name. Beautiful singer. Had died. Jackson. I don't know why I forgot that. Michael Jackson had just passed away, and I burst into tears. A, because I loved his music, but B, I knew that God was speaking to me big time. Michael Jackson never grew up. He was caught in the twilight zone between child and adult. And I thought, if I ever needed a sign, this is it. I did that talk again in Novosibirsk. I was on steroids. I was absolutely on fire. I got the same result. When I came off stage, the organisers said, will you come back next year? And I said, no. They didn't know that I was done. When I walked off that stage, that was it. I had retired from the Amway business.
Yeah.
And that was in June. And on the 23rd of November, 2009, just 5 months later, we launched this program. I don't know where I found all the pieces of the puzzle to come together. I can only just say it was meant to be. But we started the program, and it was just an absolute hit from the day we started it. And we put 500 young people through now.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's Myomo, and that's how a radical shift in my life at the age of 54 to switch from something I'd been doing for 40 years, 30 something years then, and to launch out on something that had never been done before. It's never been done since. There's nothing out there that works with the parents and the kids to the extent that our program does.
Yes.
Just incredible. So, right now, COVID-19 is causing people to pivot, as the in word right now, which means you stand still and you turn and you face another direction. You don't run around like a crazy person, get panicking. You stay grounded, you stand, and you look around and you see what other opportunities are there. And I believe some of the greatest things that have ever been launched are going to come out of this seemingly, well, it is. It's a very unstable time for a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. You also, I've been trying to think of the name of the, there was a television program some years back, and you took some children and led them fairly swiftly through a really tight disciplinary process. Can you share a little bit about that?
The name of that program is called The World's Strictest Parents.
Yes.
And I was headhunted for it because I had been handling some pretty difficult kids on MIOMO. I changed my model later, by the way, so that I don't take at-risk kids now. If they're cutting themselves or hurting other people or all sorts of things, I just don't take them at that level now. It's too much. It's too much. But at that time I was, and well known for it. So I got headhunted to be the world's strictest parent. And I took 2 young people from Australia. That's the idea, is they take a boy and a girl from one country across to another, and then that parent has to do their magic, which I did in 7 days. It nearly killed me. But the idea is that I wanted to show them a new way of living where they could have respect for themselves, which would translate into respect for others, because they had neither. Absolutely neither. They were outrageous. You can still see it on YouTube if you want to Google it. And just the principles that I use, which is, it's like this. I open the front door to the dream, and I close the back door to dysfunction. Yeah. And that's what I do. So I keep talking about what they could be, what I believe it's possible for them, while not tolerating anything that would deviate from that path. And that's all I do.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of strategies, of course, that go into that. But that's my basic premise. And I also, what I wanted them to do was to understand that they could be competitive in the world. In other words, they could nail the opportunities that they went for, but they'd only do it if they had a good character. So it's about developing their character. And that's really what MIOMO is about, is helping young people to become competitive with good character, so that we make sure we've got the package there.
Yes.
And that was huge, that program. It taught me a lot. It's very difficult when you've got camera and microphone on you for up to 16 hours a day. Every single word is documented. But it was great. And I'm still in touch with both of the kids today.
You're right.
So still in touch with them today. And I count that an absolute privilege. And, you know, neither of those kids came from bad homes. Both sets of parents were lovely, just good marriages and so on. It's just that the kids were strong-willed from the get-go, and they ran out of puff. The parents absolutely ran out of puff and ran out of ideas and ran out of strategies, and then the kids would pit each parent against the other to get their way, and so they were just worn out. But I always want to make that clear, because those kids didn't come from bad families. They came from good families. Mm.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? There's it's not that people are doing anything wrong sometimes, you know. Yeah.
It's a bit. They just both drew the short straw for the childhood years. I believe that both of them have got the potential to be very strong leaders, especially Riley, especially the girl. She was just hard work, because she had such clear ideas about how she wanted to live life. Sure, the selfishness of youth was driving her motivation, just total selfishness. But, you know, we're all selfish. We ask ourselves 3 questions every day. We wake up and we say, what can I get out of this today? You know, how big a slice of the pie can I get? And then the second question is, and how little do I have to do for my slice?
Yeah.
And the third thing is how badly can I treat those closest to me and still maintain the relationship? You know, I'll push that to the brink, won't I? Familiarity breeds contempt, you know that one. And we're all selfish. We have to work hard to stay good.
Yes, yes.
You don't think you do.
Yeah. You've mentioned, in recounting some of those stories, a whole range of tipping points, things when things shifted, things changed, something happened, you were informed. And I think that increases our level of self-awareness. And then once this has been my experience, once we become aware, well, there's no going back then to how we might have been beforehand. There's heightened awareness.
Obedient to the call.
Sorry?
Provided you're obedient to the call.
Yes.
I mean, I think everybody gets the call in various ways and forms, but if you become adept at ignoring it or self-sabotaging so that nothing good can ever happen for you, then you won't walk into those opportunities. I've just always I said this on the World's Strictest Parents, and of course they make me look like some nutter. But I have this saying that, I don't know if you know this, Pat, but I'm one of God's personal all-time favourites.
Of course you are.
And of course, so are you. And so is everybody listening. And I've just always had this idea that life was meant to work out, not implode. Now, it's imploded in various ways along the way. I mean, I've had two bouts of cancer. And even now, I'm having surgery on Tuesday for my second reconstruction surgery. And even now, I think I'm blessed.
Yes.
I don't know. I just think we'll be good. We'll be good to go. And then somebody said to me, "Are you afraid of dying?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm unpacked, ready to go." So, and that's been what I've been doing in the last few years, is trying to unpack more. In other words, get rid of everything. Just stick to the things that float my boat and bring joy to others, and try not to get weighed down with all the peripheral stuff in life that if you give it any airspace, it's going to take you under. So, those moments that have come for me, I haven't taken every one of them, and I certainly haven't taken them in the right timing, because I got the idea for MIOMO. It was at least 18 months before I acted on it.
Yeah.
But eventually it wouldn't leave me, and I heeded the call. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As we move now out of the COVID experience, where there's a massive movement and people saying things, it'll be good to, there's two things being said. It'll be good to get back to normal, but there's also a realization right alongside that actually it's not going to be that, that it will be something new. And as you alluded to, we can be in the creation of that. So what qualities do you think now will support anyone actually in a leadership role as we move forward? What strengths do they need to bring that perhaps weren't there, or haven't been a strong focus in the past?
Look, clearly we all need to take stock. What does this experience look like for me and my family, those that I'm responsible for? What has come out of this for me? Because this COVID-19 means different things to different people. I had a ball. I had a wonderful time because my daughter and her husband and our 4-year-old granddaughter came to live with us for 5 weeks while my daughter had her baby in the middle of COVID-19. We had a baby on the 7th of April. We had 5 weeks with our family. We got on like a house on fire. I didn't know if we would, but we did. I had 5 weeks with my little 4-year-old granddaughter who lives in Wanaka in the South Island. So for me, we're financially okay. We're debt free. And I don't say that to boast in any way, but to say that was the plan a way back. Today, the plan has paid off. There are too many people not living with enough margin in their lives, meaning everything's down to the wire. Everything's tight. Everything's very brittle. And so, I'm 65 in a couple of months. So you should have your ducks in a row, hopefully a bit better at 65 than you did at 35. But take it as, if you need to, take it as a lesson. What have I been spending that I don't need to spend so that I can get in a better financial position? How have I let advertising seduce me to spend more than I should be? How have I let my children dictate to me what they expect from me when I couldn't afford it? How can I keep my life simple as it has been through COVID? In other words, cull out people and obligations that you placed upon yourself that serve no purpose. So it's that real look at what we're doing, and is it working? That's my favorite line is this working? Okay. And I use that between parents and kids, not you're bad or I'm bad. but what we're doing is not working. And that way it's not condemning. It's basically saying, I've got a system happening here, or a way of doing things, or a habit, or whatever, that's actually not building my life. It's not working for me. So take stock and decide what you might change, and then put a strategy in place. And I recommend you do this in writing, because there's nothing like seeing it written down. Get it out of your head, because if it's in your head running around doing gymnastics, it could be causing terrible anxiety, and you could be catastrophizing and magnifying things. Write it down, get it out of your head, and look at it and just deal to it and say, whatever it is, however bad it looks right now, I'm going to take charge. I'm not going to let this situation or life run me. Unless you're as old as me, you've probably got a lot more years left to now make some really, really good decisions, some good moves. I just read this morning, I looked for material to post for my young people, and it was this finance advisor in the US. He's called Financial Samurai, and he said, don't buy a car that's worth more than 10% of your annual income. He said that's the measure. So if you're earning $40,000 a year, you don't buy a car that's worth more than $4,000. He said, in that way, you'll be able to service the costs, the running costs of it, and all of those things, because cars don't make you money, right? Yeah. They're a depreciating asset, and for some people they're a liability. But and and I thought, wow. So some people need to do some research and get some help around their finances, or around their career. Clearly, some careers need to be looked at, and how can I do something differently? I say that with confidence, because I did it at 54. So that's thing. And then the next thing is to back yourself. Back yourself, because you've got some tremendous talents and skills and experience that possibly just need a little bit of tweaking and repackaging, but appreciating. When I was about 52, I was starting to feel really edgy. I knew something new was coming for me. And I just sat down one day and wrote for myself a mission statement, because the corporates had mission statements, and I thought, that's the thing to do. You need a mission statement. And it goes like this, and it's not changed in 10 years. I am grateful for the skills that I've been given in my DNA at birth. But I'm diligent to add skills to those gifts in order that I can position myself to bring my best contribution to society. I will be totally accountable for everything I do and say, and I will make no apology for my rewards. And I do all of this for two reasons. One, that I can leave a legacy for the generations coming behind, and two, that I can be proud of the character that I take into eternity. And that has never changed for me, although my contribution has. I've had to position myself in different places in order to bring my best contribution. But I keep reading, I keep refining my skills, I keep being grateful for the things that I've been given at birth. And we've all been given things at birth.
Yes.
But have we all been diligent at adding skills to those gifts?
Yeah.
Have we all been willing to contribute to society by positioning yourself so that you can be in the best place? That might be volunteering. Somebody might need to see you volunteering and see your cheery little face and your willingness and your hard work and say, I want that person. And opportunities can open up, not when you're at the top of the tree, but when you're down digging the roots, when you're down pruning like I have just been for the last 4 hours, when you're down underneath this terrible thing in my garden that I've got to get somebody in to cut it out, and it's woven its way through things and it sticks into me every time I put my hand on it. And so I have to get rid of it. Get rid of the things that are holding you back. Get rid of the things that are weighing you down. Back yourself, get a fresh vision, and have another go. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that is brilliant. Actually, I listened to a webinar recently, and they spoke of the number of women in particular who get themselves to a mature age and haven't provided sufficiently. So that's a brilliant capture. Will you say again, as we go to a close, your mission? Repeat that for us. That's just extraordinary.
Okay. So my mission statement is, I am grateful for the gifts that I was given at birth, but I'm diligently adding skills to those gifts so that I can position myself in society to bring my best possible contribution. I'm accountable for everything I do and everything I say, and I make no apology for my rewards. And I do all of these things for two reasons. One, so that I can leave a legacy for those coming behind. And two, so that I can be proud of the character that I will take into eternity.
Yvonne Godfrey, I do love you.
It moves my eyes, you know. It moves me.
Yes.
And I really want to live up to that. And it's a big ask. But you know, that's what I do. That's what I have to do.
I can't thank you enough for entering my life some 20 years ago and for being that intermittent influence. I've treasured it every time, and I thank you for today. That wisdom is going to stir hearts. Thank you.
I hope so. Thank you, Pat. I love you heaps. Take care.
You. Bye for now.
Bye.
Take a break.
Thanks for taking a break with Pat Armistead.
Take a break.
Join us next time for more.
Take a break.
And be sure to like, share and subscribe for updates. And don't forget to click the bell for notifications. Bye for now.